Matt Burney or Dan Illman taking a look back at the Grade 1 front-runner for 2-year-old Colts going a mile and a 16th at Santa Anita this past Saturday afternoon. It's a major prep for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and guess what? This race was won by a very, very exciting prospect in Bolt d'Oro as they break from the gate. You're going to see this is an interesting spot for Bolt d'Oro. He's been able to go to the front in the past. He's come from way out of it after he missed the break. He broke very nicely here, and he's going to take a beautiful stalking trip.
If Bolt d'Oro gets this kind of trip in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, boy, he's going to be really tough to beat because this was a sensational performance. And you mentioned he only had 2 starts at Del Mar. He had a lot thrown at him. They asked him to go to the front in one race. He was bounced around at the start and then had to come from off of the pace. We knew he could take some adversity. In this race, he didn't have to worry too much about adversity. He's in a dream spot, prompting a 70-1 shot, where arguably his toughest competition on paper, the number 1 Zatter, is hemmed in inside.
Sitting just off take the 101, the 70-1 shot. You see Bolt d'Oro very, very comfortable and relaxed underneath Corey Nakatani. Down on the inside, you have Zatter for the Zayats and Bob Baffert. Okay, maybe not an ideal position, but really no excuse. When the real running starts, he backs up badly.
This is a very disappointing performance. There were whispers that maybe he would bypass this race, wait a week for the one-turn Champagne in New York. Obviously, in hindsight now, that might have been a better idea. I think this horse is going to do better at shorter distances. You see he's all in right now and not moving forward.
Solimini, the other Zayat runner in the white cap's going to start to warm up here on the far turn, and for a moment it looks like he may actually get involved in this thing. But Corey Nakatani just lets his hands go at this point, and now it's all over. And we're just trying to find out who's going to run second, because Bolt d'Oro, he does something that 2-year-olds generally don't do. He puts the boots to this field.
He just put that 70-1 away the way you're supposed to put a 70-1 away, and now he's extending, and Corey is saying, let's make this a true prep for the Breeders' Cup. Let's ask this horse down till about the 8th pole, and then let him take me the rest of the way. This race, professional, tactical, very, very fast from the Buyer's scale, a really talented 2-year-old by Medaglia d'Oro.
This is a horse, Bolt d'Oro, that is no question the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He gets the job done in the front-runner stakes, $3.80 on the win end. Solimini is second, pays $3.80 to place. Take the 101, the pace setter, hung around to run third, pays $7 to show the $1 exact to come back. $6.40, the 50-cent try, $56.50. Bolt d'Oro, not only is he impressive on the racetrack, you look at his pedigree. Well, I mean, that screams distance, doesn't it? Medaglia d'Oro out of an AP Indy mare. Mick Ruiz has done a tremendous job with this horse. He has done everything right with him. The horse has done everything right. Maybe a little bit slow to break in the Del Mar Futurity. Doesn't matter. He can come from widest and fastest. This horse is 3 for 3. He's got a shade under $400,000 in earnings. There's no reason. I mean, is there anything to knock right now?
Nothing to knock for Bolt d'Oro. This was the race for a 2-year-old. And we'll learn a little bit more about the New York-based runners in the Champagne, the Kentucky-based runners in the Breeders' Futurity. It is hard to believe that there's going to be a performance in either one of those races that matches this one.
Now let's talk about the Fig for a moment, because strictly from a clock standpoint, this race, we're not even going to talk about it comparing it to the girls, the 2-year-olds.
We expect that to be fast.
We expect that to be different. And guess what? It was something crazy, like 3.5 seconds difference. The most impressive thing was this was faster than Paradise Woods, who we saw go out there earlier in the card and run so brilliantly, very, very well in the Zenyatta. That race was about five lengths slower if you're looking at it strictly from a fifth of a second standpoint. That race came back faster on the Buyer scale. The reason that Buyer brought that up was saying, realistically, the likelihood of the second, third, and fourth place runners in this race running the best race of their life by 15 points seems quite unlikely. Having said that, the ultimate number that was decided upon, or they landed upon for Bolt d'Oro in this spot, was a 100, which still is one of the fastest 2-year-olds we've seen in arguably the past 10 or 15 years.
Certainly better than what we've been used to with our 2-year-olds recently. And again, it's not like this horse is running 100 Buyer speed figures out there loose on the lead, or getting like these dream situations, or running on biased tracks that just play to his favor. He is doing it the right way. He is doing it either overcoming trouble at Del Mar, and in this race, just getting a really nice situation, doing everything professionally and well. He is not only the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he's a heavy one.
The 100 Buyer speed figure, 125 time form U.S. rating. Solimini, I think, is a talented horse.
I think he's a long-term prospect.
I think he needs to work on a couple things. You look at that pedigree, it seems like distance looks like it should be okay. Now, running style-wise, it makes me wonder a little bit about how far he wants to go, but I agree. you think down the road get some more seasoning?
I think this is a horse at 1 1/8 next year in the spring preps for the Classics. Baffert will have him sort of figured out. Right now, doesn't have a lot of early speed. You saw when Bolt d'Oro, as you mentioned, Corey dropped his hands just a little bit and asked for run. The response was immediate, and Solomini just couldn't sort of keep up with him. He's more of a grinding type right now. 1 1/16, these middle distances work for Bolt d'Oro, maybe not yet for Solomini. He's moving the right way, obviously. I mean, heck, he's grade 1 placed in only his second lifetime start. I don't think he makes up 8 lengths on Bolt d'Oro come Breeders' Cup time. Let's see what happens next spring.
We already touched on Zatter, how this was really an unmitigated disaster. He never really did any serious running. Is there anyone else in this field? I mean, we were interested in Texas Wedge. Maybe this was just a little bit too much too soon, and he had been gone for a long time. But after that, it's kind of hard to make a case for anyone, isn't it?
And Comburn's going to get back on the turf, and I think that's really what he wants. You understand why they took a shot here. He had 1 race on the dirt. It was a very tough spot to be in sprinting. His 2 subsequent races, I believe, on the turf going long were okay. And I think the connections were saying, well, maybe there's a chance that it's not just the surface, it's the distance. He wants to go long. I think after this race, it's the surface. He's going to run on the turf, and maybe some sort of a sneaky horse down the road to follow on that surface.
You know, after the Del Mar Futurity, Mick Ruiz said, you know, Bolt d'Oro was only about 70%, and I laughed. I thought that was just a crazy thought. After seeing this, I think he might have been right.
I think he understood right away. They spent a lot of money on this horse, considering that pedigree, considering the way he looks. It's not a surprise. Maybe he was 70% fit for the Del Mar Futurity, figuring there were bigger fish to fry. A grade 1 around 2 turns, prepping for the big one, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
If that's the case, it's very scary and very exciting to think about what this horse may be capable of doing going forward. Certainly the Breeders' Cup Juvenile is in play for Bolt d'Oro, but I'm sure they're even thinking. It's hard not to get excited when you see a horse like this, and it makes you think really big going down the road. I know it's still 7 months away, but I mean, I think it's just natural to be thinking that, wow, maybe we've got one.
It's fingers crossed, knock on wood. When you get to the barn every morning, he is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and feeling good.
Bolt d'Oro wins the Grade 1 FrontRunner, leading into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He gets a 100 buyer speed figure, very fast for a 2-year-old this time of year.